Goose Fraba. Goose Fraba. Great reference. John, I know you don't know what that one is.
That is correct. No clue.
I will bet Dylan does not know that one either.
Nope.
Goose Fraba. Goose Fraba. What's the name of the movie, Philip? Oh, daggone it. When you have to go through those classes for getting mad all the time.
Anger management.
Anger management. That's the name of the movie. Thank you very much.
Is that the one with Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler?
It is.
Yeah.
Goose Fraba.
I haven't seen that one in years.
Goose Fraba. Yes, that's Philip. You could not have put up anything more perfect today. That is A+, brother. A+ on the Andy Moore-Honda hotline. This is also accurate. Braden Smith.
Yeah, that was okay.
Braden. That's why I was off. Like Braden Smith.
It was an Archie Miller thing, not a Mike Woodson thing. But
didn't not quite. Woodson had the opportunity to recruit him and would not recruit him.
Okay, but he got Jalen Hood-Schifino as the point guard in that class, though. I'm not going to blame Mike Woodson for that.
But he's guard poor.
But he's guard poor because
he was.
They're guard.
He had Jalen in, but Jalen was not thought to be. He was not expected to leave after the first year.
That's what I'm saying. Like that. Jalen Hood-Schifino turned out to be too good. That was the problem. It's the same reason Purdue last year was like, wow. Purdue last year is kind of the same thing where they had two guards playing in the tournament that were freshmen because Jaden Ivey turned out to be too good. It was like, why do they not have any guards? Well, Jaden Ivey was a lottery pick the year before. They didn't expect that to happen. If he was 90% as good and stayed around for another year, they probably make the Final Four, maybe win a national title. So, yeah, it happens. It also doesn't help that Ja'Kai Newton is hurt. It also doesn't help that Xavier Johnson's been hurt half the year and then got ejected last year in a pretty ridiculous call, in my opinion. But
now, you think it's a ridiculous call or a ridiculous play?
I mean, I don't think that's a flagrant 2. Come on,
dude. Joe Hillman explained it best, and I would never have said this the way he did, but he did, so it's out there. He's like, he sticks his hand up a guy's shorts and grabs his package. I mean, you can see when you're going by somebody and your arm is up somebody's shorts and he's already still behind you. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean,
your hand does not find your way up.
John Stockton did that play every day for 20 years and never got even a foul call. Like, that happens in basketball. Like
in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on.
But is that something you need your senior leader, your senior guard, your only true point guard right now? I mean, Gabe is there, but he's not one that provides offensive. Anyway, that's not a time or a place. You're on the road. It's there's so many things that I could add to that, but your job is to be the leader. And not only is he doing that nonsense, he's doing the other things like the end of the half, all that ridiculousness where he holds the ball for 20 seconds and then loses it for his fifth and final turnover of the game, I believe.
He had a bad game. There's no way around that. And it was tough because he played so well against Ohio State on Saturday. And it was like, okay, maybe he's turned a corner here. But yeah, like he's clearly still working through being rusty from being out for a month.
I'm not here to bang on Indiana. I've tried to not do that as much as possible, but there comes a point to where you're like, dude, like I said, what do you want me to do? Lie? Indiana is 2.5 years into Mike Woodson, and it is regressing. And
I mean, it was always going to regress this year. Like, that's the thing. People like,
everybody says that, and I disagree. You should not be regressing in the era of the transfer portal of NIL.
That's just how it works. Like, you lost one of the best players in program history and a first-round pick, you were always going to be worse this year than you were last year, right? Like the fact that they were not going to be as good as they were last year was not really a secret, despite the fact they went out and did very well in the transfer portal overall. Like,
not well enough. That's the problem.
Yeah, I wish they'd gotten another guard. I don't think there's any way around that. I think that they should have. I think they needed one. But I also think that they thought they were going to get a lot more from Mackenzie Mbako defensively than they have. He struggles so much on that end of the floor that the fact that he's come a long way as a scorer is overshadowed by the fact that he's struggling on that end. I think they thought they were going to get a lot more from him. Again, I think they thought they were going to get a lot from Ja'Kai Newton this year, who, as far as I can tell, is a good player who is not getting an opportunity to show it. I think they thought that they were going to get more defensively from Gabe Cupps, who is not bad on that end of the floor, but it's not game changing in the way I think they thought he was. And so they went and got Khalil Ware because they needed a big man. I think it was probably tough in the transfer portal to say, hey, we need a guard and not be able to promise any playing time, because that's why people go in the portal is to get playing time. They couldn't promise anyone playing time because you already have.
How could you not? You have to be able to promise people playing time because you're going to need them, because Mike Woodson says, I can't play these guys 40 minutes a game. Well,
they couldn't promise them a starting spot, right?
There you go. Now,
they had
well, you should never, I don't think you should ever promise anybody a starting spot. I'm like, right. I think you have to earn that. And I think that if you're a competitor, you have to know that going into whatever you're doing.
That's how the transfer portal works, though, is a lot of these guys are looking for a starting spot, right? Like that's Khalil. I don't think, let's put it this way. Indiana probably didn't promise Khalil Ware a starting spot, but they probably told him, hey, we don't have another center. Like, hey, you're gonna play, I guarantee it. So like that's the thing, they couldn't do that with the guards they were looking at in the transfer portal. And like, yeah, I was pounding the table in the offseason, go get Brandon Newman from Purdue. He's in the portal. He's exactly what IU's missing right now. Like, he ended up at Western Kentucky. They probably could have used him, right? But and there were other guys in the portal they could have gone and gotten. They didn't. They didn't do it, and that is a bad decision, or they not getting it done, whatever you want to call it. But other than that, I do think that they played this offseason about as well as they could have. Getting Khalil Ware, getting Mackenzie Mbako, like you didn't think coming into the season you were going to get as little from Mbako as you have. And I'm not knocking Mbako, to be clear. I think that he will be a good player eventually. I don't think that it will be this year, and I don't think it will be with Indiana, because I don't think he's going to stay at Indiana for more than a year. But
I don't either, and I don't think that it's because he's in the NBA next year. I
don't think so.
Mbako in Bloomington next year? Question mark.
No. I doubt it. And that's the kind of the flip side of, you can't say that Indiana is young because they're not going to have these guys next season. It's not like this team is going to be able to grow together. Like if Khalil Ware and Mackenzie Mbako came back next year and you add Liam McNeely to this team, then you're kind of cooking. But I don't think that either of those guys is going to be back next year. So you're starting over again is the problem. And so I understand.
Not only are you starting over, Derek Queen, if this continues, I think that I know that Khalil Ware will be gone next year. Well, I think he'll be gone next year personally, yeah, but I don't think that matters. If Indiana continues to head in the direction that they're going, which is straight downhill.
See, I don't think that's entirely true. I think people are overreacting to last night's game because they're going to overreact to last night's game. Like, I think
that's just a cap. I think it's just a cap on the jar.
I don't think so. I think they're going to be fine-ish. Maybe they missed the tournament. I think they win 10, 11 Big Ten games and they're fine. Like they played very well against Ohio State on Saturday. They're going to have a chance to win a game against Minnesota on Sunday, or on Friday, I should say. And then they're going to host Purdue, and they'll probably stand on their head in that game like they have the last two times Purdue has come to Bloomington. Like I don't think this season is lost because of what happened last night. I do think that they have a chance to win that game at the end last night if Xavier Johnson is still in the game at the end, which is, yeah, that's cold comfort. He wasn't in the game at the end and they lost. But I think they were the better team while he was in the game, despite how badly he played, which is kind of funny. They were the better team for most of that game until he left. And yeah, they didn't do enough, and they missed a lot of threes. They missed a lot of free throws, but they were getting the better shots. They were moving the ball better. They were playing decent defense for most of that game until he left. And I don't think that team, like, maybe this is me trying to put a positive spin on it. I don't think that game.
And I appreciate that, because we need somebody to do that, because it's not going to be me today.
No, I don't think the sky is falling in the same way you do. I understand people think they're gonna go 7-13 in Big Ten play. I don't think that's gonna happen. They are obviously still working through a lot. They're not where I think a lot of people thought they would be at this time of the year. But I don't think the sky is falling. I guess here's one thing I will say in terms of if you want to take a silver lining from last night. Khalil Ware was awesome. You guys watched Khalil Ware last night? If you're looking for, like, if Derek Queen is watching, like, the one positive from last night was how well Khalil Ware played. He dominated in the paint. He had 17 rebounds.
13 and 17. Yeah, great night for him.
Fantastic. Like, if you're talking about, like, oh, he doesn't, like, we've talked about it before this year. The whole thing about him and the motor, that's over. Like, he played incredibly hard the entire time he was in that game. And basically, IU's rebounding issues from the Ohio State game went away in large part because he was out there on the defensive glass. Now, they still didn't rebound well enough. I think Malik Renew needs to be better in that area. I don't think he boxes out well enough. But Khalil Ware was very, very good last night. And I do think that if Xavier Johnson is in that game at the end, despite how poorly Xavier Johnson played for parts of that game, if he is on the court for the last 13 minutes of that game, I am not convinced IU loses that game. I think the problem with him getting ejected, and I know that this is like, well, he shouldn't have gotten ejected then, but I do think that if he is on the floor in that game, Rutgers they can't go to the full court press that they did, and the full court press is what cost Indiana the game because they weren't able to get the ball across half court. They weren't able to take care of it. And Xavier Johnson is the guy he's your primary ball handler. He's your best on-ball defender. And not having both of those things for the final 13 minutes of that game, like it was 39-35 when he left, and then they were -9 over the next 7 minutes as they tried to kind of desperately figure things out. And then they figured things out, and it was too late.
But that's the problem. They are so one-dimensional. They don't have a second. There's no plan B.
No,
that's the problem.
They don't have
plan A, and if plan A doesn't go well, it's bad.
They don't have it. They don't have enough ball handlers, and you're exactly right. They don't have enough ball handlers. Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal and CJ Gunn cannot be your primary ball handlers. They're just not equipped to do it at this time. I also think the other part of it is, and this is where I think Mike Woodson was talking about they need more leadership from the seniors, is that there was a timeout last night where IU was down 11 or whatever it was, and Stephen Bardo, who was calling the game for Peacock, who was basically saying, hey, Trey Galloway's a senior. He needs to get his guys together and kind of settle everyone down. And the problem is that Trey Galloway is not that guy. He's just not. Xavier Johnson is that guy. Like you took out IU's emotional heart too, because he wasn't on the bench anymore either. He wasn't able to get these guys together and say, hey, let's figure this out. Trey Galloway is not the kind of like emotional, hey, everyone settle down, let's get this. And I think they need him to be, but he just never has kind of grabbed that role with both hands. And so they don't really have, with Xavier Johnson in the locker room, they don't have that guy. And that's why it was so tough that he got ejected, because you took away their primary ball handler, their best on-ball defender, and the guy who kind of settles everything down when things are going crazy. And that was the game. It was like as soon as he was ejected, the game was over. And it was just kind of, well, how ugly is this going to get down the stretch? And it got pretty ugly.